sponsored by Blackmagic Design, the world's highest quality products for the feature film, post and broadcast industries. Blackmagicdesign.com. And by the Tonkawa Film Festival, celebrating short films from around the world. tonkawafilmfestival.com.
As we mentioned in the previous episode, you shotgunned 16 movies in 5 days, like a madman. And we only got to talk about a few last week. And we talked a little bit about the festival, but if you can we begin with an exciting lightning round, and get give us some movies, then we'll go in detail about some more.
First off, Vermilio. This is Italy's Oscar entry, beautifully shot and set in the town of the same name in the Alps, focusing on the daughters of the town's teacher and kind of their spiritual leader. It plays like an Italian version of Little Women at times, especially since it's set in the immediate aftermath of World War II, but it is very well acted. Grand Tour. This is Portugal's entry. Very stylish throwback to classic mystery and adventure films, including being shot in black and white. At its core, it's just a story told twice through the perspective of its two leads, a man traveling through Asia to escape his upcoming wedding, and his fiancée in pursuit. Overly simplistic, but on the whole enjoyable. Sujo is Mexico's entry. This shows the life of a poor but brilliant boy trying to get out of the environment of his small community that happens to be run by drug cartels. It's an interesting story, but one we've all seen before. We'll see how it does in the international feature competition. Intercepted is a new documentary about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which becomes all the more poignant in the wake of the election because who knows if we'll keep supporting Ukraine, given that the president-elect loves Vladimir Putin. What's unique about this documentary is that we have footage of Ukrainians kind of picking up the pieces after their homes have been destroyed, juxtaposed with intercepted phone calls from Russian soldiers to their families back home. Some of the soldiers regret what they've done, others fully embrace Putin's propaganda and hatred of Ukrainians, but most of them feel like they're doomed. They feel like they've been sent on a fool's errand to their death because this was not the swift victory that Putin promised it would be. There's some very powerful sound editing here to go along with the cinematography, so look for that potentially to get shortlisted for documentary feature. Under the Volcano is Poland's entry, and it also deals with the war in Ukraine. This time it's a fictional film centering on a family that's on vacation in Spain when the invasion starts. They start as a happy family, now they're refugees in paradise, with the central focus being on the teenage girl Sophia as she tries to juggle her own emotions while also taking care of her little brother, shielding him from the bad stuff in the world, and managing her parents' fear. There's also a Russian family at the same hotel as them, so there's a lot of tension and resentment there. Some good stuff. Santosh is the Oscar entry from the UK. It's a classic film noir from the perspective of female police officers in India. The title character, she's played excellently by Shahana Goswami. When she inherits her late husband's job as a cop, she has to deal with all this institutional sexism while she's investigating the disappearance of a Dalit girl, Dalit being untouchable in the Indian caste system. Universal Language is Canada's entry, directed by surrealist filmmaker Matthew Rankin. In this absurdist circle of life, the cities of Winnipeg and Montreal are both the same, with the same cast of characters, and the whole film is done in Persian, as if Canada is now Iran. It may not be all that accessible for the wide audiences, but if you can commit yourself to the sheer silliness of it all, it's a lot of fun. I'm Still Here, Brazil's entry, a very powerful look at how authoritarian regimes thrive, with the story focused on former Congressman Rubens Paiva, who was disappeared by the military dictatorship in the 1970s. The historical plight of Paiva, as well as the resilience of his wife Eunice and their family in getting justice for him, strikes a very resonant chord in today's society. Look for this one to be a major contender for international feature. Devo, I mentioned it in the last episode, one of two documentaries about one of the greatest experimental bands of all time. It's pretty straightforward as far as like a history of a music artist goes. You can detect a little bit of resentment from the surviving members of the band because they didn't make it as big as they feel they should have. But the music is always awesome, and director Chris Smith presents it in a wonderful way with lots of restored film footage and edits that really sell the mystique of the band as well as their music. The last documentary is Architecton by Viktor Kossakovsky. His last two documentaries, Gunda and Aquarella, were both shortlisted by the Academy, so I'm not going to be surprised if this one is as well. It's very similar to Aquarella in that that film had this intense audio-visual experience of watching the life cycle of water, of all things. So now we have Architecton, which looks at how mountains of stone that are millions of years old, how they're strip mined for the purposes of making cheap concrete. The whole thing is shot in 48 frames a second, and that gives you this really immersive high-def experience that film nerds are going to love. And finally, A Real Pain, which we discussed on this show back when it premiered at Sundance. I don't know how much more I can add to what Eric McClanahan said, only to stress that this is one of the best films of the year. Kieran Culkin deserves a supporting actor nomination. And as of right now, this is my pick for the best screenplay of the year.
Wow. That was awesome, dude. That was amazing. And I just had so much. I had like I'm a little bit information overloaded. The picture from Brazil, it sounds a bit like, remember the animated movie that you reviewed last year? I think it was last year, it was all done with like, it was kind of like a documentary where they used recordings and things like that, but it was all animated about the musician who was disappeared.
Oh yeah, they shot the piano player. Yeah, this happened a few years before that one. Like, but it all during the military junta, for lack of a better term, in Brazil at the time. And yeah, thousands of people were arrested, kidnapped, tortured, killed, completely disappeared. This is much more of a fictional tale. I mean, they shot the piano player was also fictitious, but it was presented like it was a documentary that they then animated, whereas this one is just a work of pure drama. When you see all the intimidation tactics, all of the interrogations, like all these weird methods that are used to basically paint anyone as a communist and therefore expendable and executable, really just it makes you worry. And the lead performances were just absolutely stellar.
The other one I was curious about is the Devo picture. I'm a sucker for a good rockumentary. Mark Mothersbaugh, who was in Devo, he's a film composer.
There is a brief mention of the post Devo work that he does. I mean, he created the theme song for Rugrats and Pee-wee's Playhouse, which is right on brand. He's a film composer. He's done everything from The Life Aquatic to Cocaine Bear. Like he's very prolific when it comes to film score, and it's always fun to listen to his scores because there's always a hint of Devo in it. So that's always fun.
This is the BTRP Media Network.